Hello, this is Jackie with Panama Relocation Tours, and thank you so much for joining us for our Saturday live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about having an estate sale, and I've got some good news and some better news for you. So originally, I was going to interview an estate sale company that's in Texas that a friend of mine had used once, and about 2 months ago, they had to cancel because her father died the day before the live stream. So then I rescheduled it, and unfortunately she had an emergency, a family emergency again this morning, so she had to cancel. So this is what I did. I've called 20 estate sale companies today to try to get someone to talk to you about having an estate sale, and I couldn't find any. But sometimes things just work out for the best, because instead I have a special guest that has his own personal experience working with an estate sale company. And he's going to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly, and questions you should ask, things you should demand. I'll let him tell you all the things. So I think actually it works out better for me to, instead of having an estate sale company as our guest speaker, to have someone that has actual firsthand experience working with an estate sale company. So before I bring on Mark in just a minute, for the benefit of you that are new to our channel, I want to make a couple of quick announcements. My name is Jackie Lang. I'm the owner of Panama Relocation Tours since 2010. We've been offering relocation tours to take you all across the country and teach you about the different areas and about important things that you need to know to move to Panama the right way and avoid costly mistakes. Right now, we're doing tour number 252 tours since 2010. You can get more information about our tours on our website at PanamaRelocationTours.com, and just click on the Tours tab to get more information. We do have a lot of our tours for 2024 are sold out. We still have about, I think, 5 or 6 openings for the October 25th through the November 1st tour. So if you're thinking about coming to Panama and seeing what all the amazing things are that everybody's talking about, to see it up close and personal, get signed up for one of our tours in 2024. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on our guest speaker, Mark. So hi, Mark. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello there. I was on tour number 215.
215.
And so, well worth it.
Yeah. So before we start talking about estate sales, why don't you tell everybody when you moved here and where you moved from?
Okay. I took tour 215 the first week of June 2023. And it turned out that exactly a year later, the first week of June of this year, I came down, spent a week to look for a place, found a place in Potrerillos, which is Spanish for little pastures. And the reason it's called that is they have these wonderful stone fences that were made literally hundreds of years ago by the indigenous indentured servants of the Spanish. To create these little pastures. As many have experienced, the first place you land isn't necessarily the best place for you. And it ended up being quite a bit warmer than I was looking for. And actually in about a week or so, I'll be moving to Alto Boquete, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So I ended up finding...
Rent the first year or maybe 2, because you might move several different times. So aren't you glad you didn't rush into buying them?
So I don't think I'll end up buying. I pretty much settled on renting, which I'm fine with. So I ended up actually making the move July 24th. So I've been here, about 7 weeks now.
Okay. So, and where did you move from? What state did you move from, or what country?
I'm sorry. I was living in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is right by the New Hampshire border and about 35 miles north of Boston.
Okay. And before you moved here, you had a house full of stuff that you needed to do something with, because you weren't planning on bringing it with you. So tell us about your experience with contacting estate sale companies and just how it went for you.
Correct. I was in a condo that was about 1,200 square feet, and I started looking around for an estate sale company. Checked online, looking, did web searches, and I was very surprised at how hard it was to find an estate sale company, particularly in the Boston area, home of WGBH, Roadshow Antiques. Some of the places I found, they were more interested in smaller items, knick-knacky type things. I tried, I asked my realtor, who do you recommend or know of someone? My banker, my lawyer, my financial guy. Nobody had any suggestions. They didn't know of any companies. It got to the point I thought, well, who handles, estates or is connected in a way? And I almost came to the point of calling funeral directors. Mm-hmm. I didn't end up doing that, but that, and maybe that would have been an interesting option.
If someone dies, their heirs may need to sell their estate.
Yes. So the company I ended up going with, I learned of through the friend of a friend of mine, and they came highly recommended. And after it was all said and done, I was wondering if these people were on crack because it was not a good experience.
So what were the lessons learned with recruiting that estate sale company? What lessons do you learn? What do you wish you would have done differently?
Well, first, as soon as you know you're going to be moving, start looking for an estate sales company so that you have time to find out about them, check their references, talk to those, if you can, who they've done sales for. Have them come in as soon as possible to appraise your items so that if they're not familiar with something you're selling, they have the time to do the proper research to price them properly and accordingly. The guys I had, they did come in initially and case the joint, so to speak, but they ended up showing up a few hours before the sale was the day of the sale. And did most of the pricing then. And it seemed to me that the prices they were just pulling out of their, that they were making the prices up as they went along. So I don't feel what did sell wasn't priced properly.
Mm-hmm. Whenever another thing is always ask, how many estate sales do you do every month? And like you said, ask for some references, because if they do like 2 a year, they don't have much experience. But when you're down to the wire of moving and it's only a estate sale company you can find, then you just kind of go with them. But if you start maybe even 6 months in advance looking for that estate sale company and interviewing them and checking, talking to their references, then you might get a better result. So what were some other things, besides them, pricing your items 2 hours before the sale, what were some other things that you think that they did wrong, that if you had it to do all over again, that you would have insisted that they do it differently?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would ask, how are they going to promote the sale? Will it appear on their website? Will they send out emails? And how large is their influence? Do they advertise in the local papers or the shopper guides? Do they print flyers to post in grocery stores and other community bulletin boards? And if they don't, that's something I would strongly recommend that you actually do yourself to promote the sale. They scheduled my sale on a Friday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that was just 5 hours. And that's a work day.
Everybody's at work, yeah.
Exactly. So I would strongly suggest that you require them to hold the sale on a Saturday and or Sunday, if not both days, from like 9 to 5, so that you're getting a full 8 hours. The people that they did have show up follow this company. So that was the bulk of who showed up at my sale, were people who already knew about this company. They had a little inkling of what I was putting up for sale, but that was basically the extent of those that showed up.
Right. A lot of people don't know, but when I was a real estate investor, and I was also a licensed auctioneer, and I had a special way of selling houses in 2 days, that I could sell any house in 2 days. So one of the keys to that was having at least 25 signs, that one sign led to the next sign, that led to the next sign, that led to what the estate sale was. Of course, many cities have restrictions on signs. You have to get a permit to put signs out. Every estate sale company should be putting out a bunch of signs, at the major intersections or major roads, saying estate sale this way, and then you turn that way and this way, to get people to it, to lead them to it. Because if it's just in the newspaper, if it's only on their website, if it's in other places, some people are going to see that. But, a lot of people, like the people that I sold houses to when I was an auctioneer, is I would say 80% of those people, they just saw the sign and it made them super curious. Wow, I think I'll go check that out. So they went and saw, what I had, and almost 80% of the homes I sold was just someone that saw the sign. They saw no other advertising. So it's really important to find out, get a complete list of, advertising, and not just what advertising they're going to do, but when are they going to start that advertising? 30 days before, 60 days before, and you want a complete list of where they're going to advertise. And if they don't do what they said they were going to do, then it's time to just cancel it and, do something else.
Right.
So having the sale from 9 to 2 on a Friday, that was a major mistake. Today, whenever the lady that I was just telling everybody that the lady was supposed to do this, she said she had a family emergency and she canceled at 11 o'clock this morning. So I called 20 estate sale companies trying to get someone to fill in. And almost, I would say 18 out of the 20, I got a recording that said, we're closed on Saturday and Sunday, call us back on Monday. So they don't even want to work on the weekend. So that's not a good sign. Maybe that's just for their voicemails. Maybe they're busy doing estate sales on Saturday and Sunday. You don't know, but you need to find out. Insist that they do it on the weekends. And I would say more than one day would really be better.
Right. One would hope. Were these companies all across the country, or were they in Texas?
All across the country. I was calling Florida and California and Oklahoma and Texas and Missouri, just a Google search and finding people. And a lot of them, I couldn't find anybody. And, there were only 2 companies that said they could do a live stream, but not on such short notice, if they could do it later. But I think this is better, is people that are considering working for an estate sale company. I mean, you can do a Google search and estate sale companies in Colorado, estate sale companies where. Some of them do international, they'll do it anywhere, but then you're paying travel expenses. You really need to work for someone that's in your local area. But finding someone that had actual experience working with an estate sale company versus getting the sugar-coated version from the company is actually better. So, sometimes things just all work out. And I think having you on our guest speaker, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to do it on such short notice. But thank you for sharing all of this information. So did they end up selling most of your things? And then if they didn't, then what'd you do?
Yeah, if I could go back to when you were talking about signage, again, I was in a condo, and I checked with the condo association and not allowed to put up signs. They wouldn't allow a sign at the end of the driveway, the day of the sale. I figured, well, what are they going to do? So I had them put up a sign down there. And then
I have tricks for that. You want to hear the trick for it? You park your car at the entrance and you put the sign in your car in the back and in the front so people see it. You didn't put the sign up, it's just in your car.
Well, great minds think alike. Because
all the tricks to get around code enforcement rules.
Well, great minds think alike because this company had a van with, their signage and whatnot on it. And I moved my car out of my parking space and had them park, which was right below where my condo was. And then they did put a sign up, with like the arrow, the estate sales over here. So we kind of got around that, but, that would have only generated walk-ins. It wasn't any kind of advance, notice. Did they sell? Oh, and that's the other thing. Their contract stated that they would pay after 30 days, which who knows, why that time requirement or restriction, but, they did end up paying. I think it brought in around $6,000. My furniture didn't sell.
Wow.
My appliances didn't sell, although I was leaving, things like the stove and refrigerator, behind. It was just very small items that ended up selling. So I was still left. It was almost like I hadn't had a sale at all to begin with. So I was left with them. Now what do I do? Donate. So now, and maybe, hopefully, people across the country will have better luck than I did, and maybe it's just, the typical crusty New Englanders that I was dealing with or experiencing. So I called Salvation Army. They no longer had a truck. So, okay, sorry, thanks for calling. But we don't have a truck to come pick stuff up. So then I called Goodwill, and they don't pick up. What they do is they recommend that you contact a, for lack of a better term, junk hauling company who things to them, but you have to pay for that. Someone suggested to me, well, call Habitat for Humanity, because they take furniture to help, once the homes they build are built, to help furnish the homes for the families moving in. I contacted them, and my experience on several things that I was trying to donate, if they're not interested, they don't even bother calling you back. Not even, thanks for considering us, but we're not interested. It's just crickets. So I finally did get a hold of Habitat Humanity, and they kind of explained the situation that, at least in the area I was in, there's a glut of furniture. They couldn't take any more in. So, okay, now what? So I ended up calling this one company that said they do come and collect. And then what they can't sell, they will donate. And they came and they gave me a quote for what it would cost. It came to $900 to, basically move everything out and make it, broom clean. They should have shown up in a clown car.
No.
Because they show up. Now, my bedroom furniture, I figured was about 20 years old, but it was still in good shape. Okay. A little sanding give it a nice new paint job, and you're good to go. All right. So the two guys arrived. They were not, the company sent a manager to give me a look at everything and give me a quote and tell me how long it should take and all that. He said it should take them about 2 to 3 hours to clear everything out. And okay, so they send these two guys. The two guys walk in. Now these are the employees, and they're looking around, and they knew what the estimate that I had been given was.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, "There's no way we can do this for that, and it's going to take more than 3 hours." And they literally spent the first hour that they were there on the phone with the manager, trying to talk him into giving me a quote which would have been higher. Okay, they finally, and add to this, and this is not on them, but it ended up being one of the hottest days so far of the year, which led to them being there about 8 hours. But for example, let me back up to the estate sale. They suggested that it might be better if I wasn't actually on the premises during the sale. I never got a really good answer why, unless they were afraid I was going to break down that over some family heirloom, being sold and, out the door. My neighbor upstairs let me sit on her porch, and we just kind of observed the people coming in and going. But back to the guys that came to clear the place out. I'm sitting in the living room, and I hear these horrendous noises. And I went to look, and they were stomping on like the dresser drawers to break them down. And like the bureau, same thing. The doors, just rip them off so that they could, so there was like no intention of either trying to sell this furniture and or donate it. The thing that clinched it, I'm a photographer, and I did a lot of product and food photography. And not to give you a photo lesson, but the way when you see a food photo, and you're looking right down on it, the way that's done is it's a mirror hung above the table at a 45-degree angle, and you into the mirror, so you're photographing the reflection of what's on the table below. Okay, the mirror was about 3 foot by 5 foot, and I had it mounted on plywood so that I could hang it at the angle I needed. I saw them cart this out, and this was like one of the first things they took out, and they threw it into the truck, which of course made it shatter into, thousands of pieces. And it's, what are they thinking? So anyway, everything ended up being cleared out, and gave them the check, and, they went on their merry way. So my suggestion for finding a company that's going to come and collect your things, do your homework on them as well. Get referrals, talk to, the same thing as the estate sales, talk to, clients that, that they've had, find out what their experiences was, talk to the charities that they're supposedly donating things to. So as far as I know,
even churches that know, churches that might have some homes that, they put people in, but calling churches. But
sure.
It's good to learn all of this. And when did you knew when you were going to be moving? How far in advance did you start your quest for an estate sale company?
At this point, it's all become a little foggy.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing when the gray cells start leaking into the hair.
Yeah.
I'm going to say probably about 5 to 6 months. You know,
Oh, so you did a
part
long and way in advance, and
right.
that's what everybody needs to do. Is because if let's say you've got two or three different ones to choose from, you only had one, but if you had two or three, you want to interview all of them and perhaps even look at their schedule of when they have estate sales and
Yes,
go to an estate sale that they're doing,
yes, but
and
the
yeah,
other
and
point about time, and if you think about it, find out when they can actually have the sale. Because if they're a successful company, they're going to be booked,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
The next 8 weeks are going to be booked or even more. But
or a
that
month,
also gives you the opportunity to go to one of their estate sales that they're doing for someone else and see, what does it look like? How many people are there? And maybe the owners of the house and the items are there, and you can say, have you been pleased with this company? And have a talk with them. But start that whole process early. It's unfortunate that you didn't have more choices of different companies to go to.
well, when you asked me to do this, I was a little hesitant because I'm hoping my tale of woe is
It's
just
it's
indicative to the area that I was in, that someone in
yeah,
Florida may have better luck, or Arizona, or whatever. But regardless, I think the
questions
point
to
is
ask.
to recognize, so and
Yeah.
talk.
I'm going to open it up for some questions from the audience in just a little bit, but I just want to make one more suggestion about signs for anybody that's going to be having an estate sale. These are from my real estate investor days and selling and renting properties. So whenever the code enforcement law said you can't put a sign out, on any public properties, you can't put it in the ground. Well, first of all, in Texas, you need a rebar to put a hole in the ground before you can even put the sign up because the ground's so hard. But what I would do is I would hire someone and I'd make a sandwich board that they would wear and just walk up and down the street. And, and I would have like 6 people in different locations. So one sign leads to another sign that leads to another sign. So sandwich boards, there's not a code enforcement against that, but there is putting it in the ground in public property. So you have to get creative. If you can't put a sign by the condo complex, park your car and put a big sign or even have a banner made to put on your car. You have to do what you have to do sometimes.
I guess people don't use barrels anymore. I have one more point that I'd like to make, and this is more personal. When it comes to disposing of your things, you really have to take a hard look at what these things mean to you. Do I really need this? Do I really want to bring it with me? I'm a photographer, and one of the hardest things for me to decide on was I had this year marks 50 years of my being a photographer. So I had 50 years worth of images, negatives, transparencies. The digital images that I have were easy. I mean, they're all on a hard drive, so that's not a problem. But what do I do with all these images, the slides and negatives? And I had hoped to go through them and edit out the images that I really wanted to keep. Unfortunately, I had a major medical issue that I had to deal with, and that just sapped my completely. So I never got to do that. Again, what living in New England, and I had a studio in Maine for about a dozen years. So I had all these images of Maine, New England, different historical places. Not to name drop, but I ended up photographing George and Barbara Bush on a couple occasions. So I got different historical societies from the state on down to local ones. Hey, I've got these images, are you interested? Again, crickets. No response. It's just like, really?
That's
It,
crazy.
so it killed me to do this, but I tossed basically 50 years worth of my work. But
Yeah.
we feel better about doing that. And this might sound a little bit morbid, but it made sense to me. It's like, okay, what would happen to these images if I got hit by a bus and that's it? I'm gone. Okay. Anybody that comes in to clean the place out, they're going to get pitched anyway.
Yeah.
So I wasn't necessarily happy about that thought, but it helped me, deal with being, ending up having to do that. And like I said, I've got about maybe 15 years worth of digital images, and that's a blessing of digital, is that those are a lot easier to move from place to place to place. And I like to think, as I like to say, I've been a photographer my whole life, and I'm going to stick with it till I get it right. But really, the digital images that I've created are just, in a lot of ways, far better than anything I created with film. Now, that's not to say that I wouldn't have liked to have kept some of those film images, but so I guess that's a long-winded point of saying you really have to take a hard look at your possessions and what do they mean to you, and what are you going to do with them.
Yeah, a few months ago in our private Facebook group, I asked everybody, what are the things that stress you the most about moving to Panama? And number one was getting my pets there safely. Number two was getting rid of all my stuff. So that's what brought up this whole conversation about me wanting to talk to people about, what did you do to get rid of your stuff? Some people had a garage sale. Some people gave it to their family. Whenever I sold my houses, I was lucky that I sold the house with everything in it. And the people wanted it. They actually wanted everything that was in there. So that made it real easy for me. But everybody has to start thinking about, when you make that decision that you're going to move to Panama, whether it's in 6 months or 1 year or 2 years from now, is what am I going to do with my stuff? And start, if you got kids, ask your kids, you want anything I've got, come and get it. And then you talk to all your friends, you want anything I got, come and get it. And, just whittle it down and down to where it's as little as possible, maybe whenever you're actually doing the estate sale. Some people are able to make pretty good money. I mean, $6,000 you made, that's good money to help you get reestablished here in Panama. But sometimes just knowing that the things that were near and dear to your heart for such a long time went to someone that's going to appreciate it, that has a big value on it too. It's not a financial value, but just knowing that someone's going to appreciate it.
But again, being in a condo, there was no way I could have had a yard or a garage sale.
Exactly.
First of all, the layout or design, I wouldn't have been able to physically do it, and second of all, it wouldn't have been allowed. Again, not to try to be a Debbie Downer, but what you said about contacting your kids, what do you want, and all that. The lady who lived upstairs above me, she just turned 80, and she's in fairly good health, and gets around and all that, but she's looking ahead. And she told me several times that her children just aren't interested in, what she has, the dinnerware, the silverware, because they're established now. They've got the things they want, and all. So, it just, I think that maybe is the biggest surprise of all of this, is just how difficult it was to figure out what to do with your things.
Yeah, I had a set of Theodore Haviland china from like 1879 that I got through when I was buying houses. A lot of times I get the house and everything in it, so it's exquisitely beautiful Theodore Haviland china that was worth thousands and thousands of dollars. Did anybody want it? Nope, nobody wanted it. I had saved all of my daughter's Barbie dolls, and I thought, well, someday her little girl will want these little Barbie dolls. Nope, she didn't want them. I saved all my son's little Hot Wheels and little Hot Wheel racetracks and stuff, thinking someday he'll want that to give to his children. No, he didn't want any of it. So you guys need to think about all this stuff way ahead of time of what you're going to do with your stuff. So someone wants to know, what percentage of the sale does a estate sale company keep usually? It's like 30%.
30%. Yep. With regards to the Barbie dolls and the Hot Wheels, something like that, I would consider like a consignment shop.
Yeah.
They may be more inclined. My understanding is Hot Wheels are hot, and I don't know with the recent Barbie movie if Barbie dolls have become, terrible thing to say, hot as well.
Took it all to the Goodwill. Somebody got it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody's going to appreciate it.
So go ahead.
When you moved to Panama, did you, besides just a couple of suitcases and stuff with your clothes, did you ship a pallet or ship some things to Panama, or just?
The trip that I made in June, I ended up bringing a couple suitcases in the hopes that if I did find something, I could leave what I was bringing in the suitcases behind, and that was the case. When I made the flight down here, I have a cat, and incidentally, Buddy says hi to Buster. So I wanted to make that as simple as possible. So I didn't want to have to be dealing with whatever the limit is, 3 pieces of luggage. I just tried to limit it to dealing with Buddy and his carrier, which fit under the seat in front of me, and a carry-on and what I call my business backpack. So it just made it simpler. So I ended up having 3 large suitcases, and I ended up FedExing them to Florida, and then had, forgive me, I can't pronounce his name.
Alyssa.
Thank you.
Alyssa, yeah. So that's one of the mail forwarding companies. We've talked about that before. It's how you get Amazon orders, but also you can ship your suitcases. You can ship a whole pallet of stuff. We have a live stream interview with him about how to ship stuff to Panama, and he charges, I think it's $12 a cubic foot. It's not very much.
Right.
So it's a way to get things to Panama.
Between what I had to pay FedEx ground to get it from Lowell, Massachusetts to Florida, and then what he charges, I think came to around $900, $1,000.
Yeah.
I'm going to back up. I see the question, what did you do with the China? Again, something to consider with estate sales.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised that you may not get what you think you should get for an item. And I'll give you a case in point.
I didn't even do an estate sale. So because the people bought my house and everything in it, I left it with the house.
Yeah.
I didn't have to make a trip. I didn't have to go to consignment stores. I didn't have to do anything. I just left it there, let someone else deal with it.
Right. But the point I want to make, being a photographer all my life, I collected photographic figurines. And one of my favorites was a Hummel, and it was like of a little Hummel boy photographing his friend. And it listed for about $3,000.
Wow.
I kept looking on eBay. I really fell in love with this piece, and it ended up being, it was the most expensive piece in my collection. I kept watching on eBay, and on eBay it was around $2,400. I finally saw it for $1,800. So I thought, okay, that's pretty good. I bought it. I came this close to bringing it with me, but I thought, no, just make a clean sweep of everything, simplify your life. It's just going to end up being a problem down the road when I'm gone. What do we do with this? So listed for around $3,000. I bought it for $1,800 at the estate sale. It sold for $500.
Oh my goodness.
So just, something you want to keep in mind.
So that brings up a good point because some people do get on like Facebook Marketplace or eBay to look for things for sale. Was there a reason that you chose to go the state sale route rather than listing items on eBay or Facebook Marketplace to sell it?
Okay. And that was suggested to me, excuse me, by many, many people.
Mm-hmm.
Stop and think about how many items you have and the amount of time and work it would be to list all those items on Craigslist, Facebook,
Yeah.
eBay, and then on top of it, dealing with all the packaging and mailing and shipping and all of that. I would say if you're going to consider that, start at least 2 years out. Okay.
Well, the other thing that I think you really have to be concerned about is like in your community, if you're using Facebook Marketplace and you're putting stuff out there, I mean, you're putting your address out there. People are going to want to come and look at it. Who is this person that's
Yeah.
coming into your home? And maybe they're just casing the joint. This is a story of something that happened to my son in Dallas, Texas. He put some items on like a Facebook Marketplace. This was many years ago, something similar to Facebook Marketplace, and he had someone come and look at it, and they said, yeah, it's nice, but I don't think I want it. 2 days later, his home was broken into, and it was stolen along with a lot of other things in the house. So that's a reason to maybe not do, if you're going to mail it to someone, that's one thing, but to have people come into your home and you don't even know who they are, it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Bad things can happen that way.
I think eBay kind of eliminates that problem, and I think Craigslist does as well. I think Craigslist is pretty anonymous up until the time the person actually comes out, to pick whatever item, that you're selling. So there's that. But eBay, you're shipping everything, so they don't necessarily know, where where you live.
Yeah. Were there like consignment shops in your area that you maybe could have left some things and consignment with them?
I contacted a few of those, but again, they weren't interested in furniture. And like I said, I had this photography figurine collection and miscellaneous photo items, and just no interest. I even contacted the George Eastman House in Rochester, New York.
Mm-hmm.
I photographed all the collection, and it was about 100 pieces. And I sent this to them and followed up at least twice. And the reason I followed up at least twice was no response. Again, crickets. No, we appreciate you thinking of us, but we don't really see this being a good fit. Okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. Things that, that you value and other people don't. So Susie wants to know, there are state sale companies that will buy whatever you don't sell during the sale. Well, maybe there are, but perhaps not in the area that he lives in. Another thing to search for besides the state sale company is an auction house. Auction house, they may come out and, look at everything you have, give you one flat price, and then they'll haul it away and they'll take it to the place where they do weekly auctions, where they sell things. We had that in Tyler, Texas, close to where my estate sale was. But, I offered whenever I sold both of my houses in Texas before I moved here myself. I didn't use a real estate agent because I was experienced at selling stuff. And I just, in the ad, I put, this is the price for the house and everything in the house is available for this price, because it was real estate and personal property, two different things, and they're taxed differently. And the people that bought my houses were thrilled to get everything in it. Some people wouldn't be, but it doesn't hurt if you're selling a house anyway or selling a condo anyway, it doesn't hurt to run an ad that, and have pictures of it and say everything is available in the house too.
I did run that by my realtor, what if sold, the condo furnished, and that didn't really fly. It's not like down here where everything you rent and purchase is furnished. I did leave. I had two patio areas, one off the living room, which I ended up calling the garden room because that's where I grew plants and flowers and all that. And I had a set of Adirondack chairs that I had made myself. And then off the master bedroom was a similar area that I called the wisteria nook because I was growing a wisteria in it. And I had chairs that I made. And I purposely left those behind thinking, you know, I enjoyed having those. Hopefully the new owners will. Well, it turns out the new owners aren't going to be moving in. They're going to be renting the place. So I have no idea if what little furniture that I made, that I did leave behind, I don't know if that's going to stay there, you know, for whoever the new tenants are, or if the new owners are just going to remove it.
Yeah. If there's like used furniture places in your area, then you know, I contact them and say you can have it for free, and maybe you just have to come and get it. So you just have to get creative and try all kinds of different things. And what works in Colorado might not work in Florida. What works in Florida might not work in Idaho. So there's not one right answer to liquidating your stuff, but you just have to start thinking about what you're well in advance. Start thinking about what you're going to bring with you and what you're going to leave. The other thing is some people have some things that they're just not ready to let go of it yet, but they don't want to spend the big money to ship it down to Panama. So you might have to put some of it in storage and then decide a year or two after you've moved to Panama, do I want to spend the money to ship it to Panama? Or am I going to, you know, I've been spending $200 a month for this storage place and I don't want any of it, and then go back, and then you do the consignment stores and the donations and everything else to get rid of it.
The reason I'm laughing at that is someone actually suggested to me that I rent a storage bin, move everything there, lock it, and walk away. Mm-hmm. And not pay for, you know, further months rent. Just leave it all behind and let them. And then they end up having to sell it and all that. Well, I have a friend who's a banker, and she's there. Well, that's a clever idea, but that could end up hurting your credit rating, or, you know, just give you a bad name and all of that. So, although, and I must say, I came very close to thinking a possible solution would be gasoline and a match, but I didn't think that my neighbors in the other unit necessarily appreciate that.
Yeah. So Carol wants to know, I have a lot of valuable books that I would hate to throw away in the event I can't sell them or donate them here in Austin, Texas. Would the Boquete Library accept them? I really don't know if they would or not. You need to have to contact the Boquete Library to ask that. I had a whole office with like 4 bookshelves full of real estate investor and marketing books that I didn't leave in my house. I just called someone that was a brand new real estate investor that would have had to spend a fortune to get all those books. And I said, if you come and get them, they're yours. And he was there in a couple of hours to pick them all up and thrilled to death to get everything. So sometimes you're not going to make money, but if you just know you're like paying it forward to someone on those valuable books, paying it forward to someone that would love to have all those books, but they can't possibly afford them, then just know that you're giving it to someone that's going to appreciate it.
I had mixed experiences with libraries because I had a lot of fine art books and photography books. And I discovered some libraries, because everybody wants to donate books, they can't take them in. But I did find a library that was willing, you know, to take all my books. So I just boxed them up and schlepped them over, and, you know, Merry Christmas. So I would say that would be a big expense, shipping your books here.
Yeah, very expensive.
It's a wonderful idea, but I just call various libraries. It doesn't have to be necessarily the community you're in. It may be another community or whatever.
libraries. So where you move to now, how big is your house? Well, he's getting ready to move again. Yeah. So he's been here for a while, but he's already moving again. So we'll have him on another time to talk about it.
Oh, you are a glutton for punishment, aren't you?
We haven't discussed the current rental, but we'll have him on another time to talk about the new rental. So Yo says, I have to worry that if I sell everything, move to Panama, and then everything goes pear-shaped or upside down, and I want to return home, I then have nothing. Do you have those fears? So I think that if you have those fears, then this would be my advice for you. If you have those fears, it might not work out. Just lock up your house, rent it out as a furnished house for a while, for 6 months, and come and give Panama a 6-month test drive. Those people that have been on a tour, after the tour, they say, I can't wait to get to Panama. Just like when I came here, I couldn't wait to move here. So, but if you just know that this is where I want to be, and it's not, you're not going to change your mind. But if you haven't spent a lot of time in Panama, if you didn't come on a tour and you just don't know if it's going to work out or not, then I would say either put all your stuff in storage so it's waiting for you when you come back. You could sell your house and rent out your house, but if you put all your stuff in storage, then you can get another house, buy another house, rent another house, and you can move all your stuff right back into there. But give Panama a test drive if you're not sure before you get rid of everything.
I have to say that fear never really crossed my mind.
I don't either.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the words retired and elderly. But the attitude, again, like I said about, my negative and transparency collection, if I got hit by a truck and that's it, I also looked at it that I'm taking care of things now. And I'm making decisions so that other people in the future, when my time comes, they don't have to deal with it. And basically, the only things I'm going to have, again, a benefit to renting, the new place I'm moving into, I'll be buying some furniture and, miscellaneous stuff. But really, it's only going to be my car and any bank accounts that I have that will have to be, that will be my quote unquote estate that will have to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. It's just the whole thing of moving to Panama, at least for me, is just simplifying your life as much as possible. It really is.
Good advice. Yeah. Some people ship a lot, 40-foot container and a lot of stuff down here. What if your visa isn't approved? What if you decide you don't like Panama? Then you got to ship all that stuff back. And that's happened to one guy. He came on my tour and he loved Panama. He couldn't wait to move here. But his wife and his son did not come on the tour. He said, you're going to love it. When they got here, they moved here and he shipped 2 40-foot containers because he was retiring from the military and they paid for it. Well, he got here. His wife hated it. She was from Colombia. She didn't like it. She wanted to move back to Fort Lauderdale as fast as possible. And, happy wife, happy life. And so it was either, so he had a really good garage sale here in Panama because it was too expensive to ship everything back. So if you have a lot of stuff, you might want to, and you're not sure, and if family members are coming with you that haven't come to explore Panama yet, I would say definitely put things in storage instead of shipping it down here.
Here's the other thing, personal experience. But, through my life, I've moved a number of times and, you box stuff up, you ship it to the new place, and eventually you get around to opening up those boxes. Mm-hmm. Well, some of those boxes, you open them up and you find yourself saying, gee, I forgot I had this.
Yeah.
So right there, what does that tell you about, did you really need it?
Right. Yeah. And like clothes, if you haven't worn that particular item in the last year because you've got seasons up there, we don't have it down here, then you're probably not going to wear it. So get rid of it. And if you've got things in your house that you have in your kitchen that you haven't used in more than a year, or items in your house that you haven't used in more than a year, it's time to start getting rid of it now. Whether you're going to move to Panama or not, consolidate, downsize. We did a previous live stream about downsizing, and I can tell you it's liberating. The more you downsize, the more liberating it is. The less stuff you have, that stuff just holds you down. So the more you downsize, the better.
I was, when it came to getting rid of clothing, I was shocked, I tell you, that I filled up at least 20 garbage bags to take to the clothing donation box. I was amazed. It was just like, wow. And I don't consider myself, a fashion plate or, by any means, as you can probably see. So that in itself was very surprising. So again, when it came to clothing, I just, brought the basics, the bare necessities.
Well, and one of the big pluses for Panama is you don't need a set of winter clothes and a set of summer clothes and a set of fall clothes. Everything's just, depending on where you live, you just need one season of clothes, so you don't have to have a big variety. Yeah, you might go back to visit someone in the winter where you can just stop off at Walmart and grab a coat if you need one. But you just don't have to worry about it. So, Mark,
I did a photography project in Pennsylvania, and they actually asked me to come back in January or February of next year to talk about it. And I suddenly realized I have no more winter clothes. So I'm going to suggest we do what we're doing here, and it'll save them the money of flying me up and putting me up and all that. So we'll see how that works out. But because I have no interest in, a down parka.
Right. Exactly. Well, then what in the world are you going to do with it? Then you're going to have to donate it whenever you come back, because you won't need it.
We're back to where we started.
And you're right back to starting all over again. What am I going to do with it when I leave? Because you won't need a big parka down here. Although, when people from Panama City come to Boquete where we live, sometimes you see them with a parka and a scarf and gloves on. And like when you're in Panama City and you're talking to a taxi driver and they say, where do you live? They say, I live in Boquete. They, oh, muy frío. Or, oh, it's so cold up there. Those of us that live here, it's not cold, but to people that live down by the coast, they think it's a little chilly up here. Not parka chilly, but some people do wear those big fluffy coats. And then, of course, they have to put one on their dog also.
The only thing I wish I had brought that I got rid of, even though it can be hotter than blazes here in Puerto Rios, it can cool down quite a bit at night. And it would have been nice, and it would be nice to have like a pair of sweatpants and a sweatshirt. So I just haven't bought those yet, and one that says Panama across the front or whatever.
Exactly. Well, Mark, I want to thank you so much for sharing all this information, valuable information with everybody about, important things to investigate and check and ask before you're going to do an estate sale. And more importantly, if you're not going to bring all that stuff to Panama with you, you need to start sooner rather than later on deciding what you're going to do with it. Start with your kids. Do they want anything? Do your neighbors want anything? It's not about making the money necessarily. It's about just getting rid of it in the most efficient way. So the more you can give away, the better. But then, Mark gave a lot of really good suggestions on things to do to talk to the estate sale companies to find out what they're going to do. Don't do an estate sale on a Friday from 9 to 2. It needs to be on the weekend if you're going to have success. If you can't put signs up, hire somebody to wear a sandwich board and walk around.
Love that idea.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do. To get people, the more people you have, and the more eyeballs you have at your estate sale, the more things are going to sell and the bigger the price you're going to get. So that's good. So Mark, thank you so much for sharing all this information. And to everybody on the live stream, thank you so much for being here this Saturday. And I will see everybody next Saturday. Quick reminder to check our website. We still have a few openings left for some of the 2024 tours. So I encourage you to get signed up for one of those sooner rather than later, because they won't last very long. Thanks again, Mark. Nice and nice to meet you for the first time. I'm sure I'll see you at one of the PRT get-togethers here in Boquete after you move to Boquete.
Well, like I said, it still hasn't been in person, and I guess my New Englandness, I'm not a huggy person, but for all the things you do for us, you're going to get a big hug.
I'll accept it. That's okay. Okay. Thanks, Mark. Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye, everybody.